I don't think there's any evidence, more evidence that college football coaches are more overpaid than a lot of other individuals who are frequently named in the press, whether it's news anchors, whether it's actors on TV, whether it's CEOs. The key question is whether their compensation is aligned with value creation. And our evidence suggests that their contracts are such that they win when the team wins. And as such, given the nature of college football and the increasing value that college athletics plays, it's not surprising that their compensation is going to rise similarly.
Well, I mean, I think you have to look at the value that's being created for the universities. I mean, some of these programs are enormously valuable. So, for example, the University of Texas football program has been valued at $875 million. Now, from that university's perspective, that represents a significant amount of value.
I think there are a couple things that I found surprising. One is that college football coach tenure is not very long. If you don't win, you don't stay. And it could be as short as 2 years, 3 years at the most. If you don't have a winning record, you're pretty much out. And that has long-term consequences for your earning ability and your ability to get another job. So there is a very tight pay-for-performance relationship in this market for college football coaches. Probably more so in terms of termination results than you would find in CEOs. There certainly is a similar pay-for-performance relationship in CEO compensation. The difference is that with the CEO, it's a lot harder to measure their performance. In the world of athletics, it really boils down to just one thing: on-field performance and win-loss percentage. If you're not winning, everybody can see it, it's tied to you, and you're not going to be able to retain your job.
Yeah, so coach's input is quite clear. Coach comes in, then the team performs. We can measure that performance in a very concrete way. And so, literally speaking, their compensation is tied to their on-field performance. Now, the comparison to CEOs is interesting because while we think of CEOs as creating enormous value, the actual contribution of the CEO to the value of the firm is much murkier than it is with respect to the college football coach.
Barring a handful of individuals who are institutional dynasties at their own schools who've been there for very long periods of time, this is a highly fluid market with a lot of turnover that's very competitive. And once you've demonstrated your performance on the field, your market value soars, and the ability of any organization to retain their coach it becomes a real challenge.
One of the things that caught my eye is, based on my work and with CEOs, is that many CEOs do not have employment contracts. Roughly 50% of CEOs of American public companies, of large public companies, have contracts. And my expectation was that we would see something similar to that in the college football coach area, but in fact, literally 100% of the coaches in our studies had contracts, written employment contracts. It would be the case that the average CEO would stay for, these days, probably about 9 years, whereas the average college football coach might be there 2 or 3 years.
One of the most, I think, important things is that people look at the number and they say, my goodness, is anybody worth that level of compensation? Whether you're talking about Nick Saban or whether you're talking about the CEO of a Fortune 100 company. But what you really have to dive into is what is the value that they're creating in the organization? And is their contract structured such that they win when their organization wins? And if you look at college football coaches, they win financially generally only when their organization wins, when they have a winning record on the field.